Hello there and welcome to another abridged campaign commentary for Total War, this time in the new Total War Warhammer 2. I'm going to be bringing you some commentary on the most interesting or important moments from the Lizardman campaign, specifically the second Lizardman campaign, the one where you play as a crocodile as opposed to the one where you play as a giant toad. And as you may guess, I don't know anything about the lore. So let's take a look at where we're starting. We're on the edge of a continent where we're kind of in a linear situation where our province is along the coast. Both of the regions in it are ruined, so we have to go after them to get things started. And as you may know, in this game, ruined settlements can just be Skaven settlements in disguise, and most often they are. And the one to the south almost certainly is, because we start the game with Skaven in that region, and they're actually in movement range to attack right now. We have some missions, including going to capture a Skaven place. This campaign is very, very heavy on the missions, I noticed, but I guess we'll talk about that as we go along. Here's our tech tree. If anyone was wondering, it looks a bit complicated at first. It's actually just lots of small tech trees that go left to right, and you have to build things before you can actually start using it, so we'll have to leave that for now. So there's the place we need to take, Serpent Coast down to the south. These Skaven are standing in the way, so I'm just going to go in and attack them with our starting army. And they get out of the way, they don't want to fight, so that's a good sign, and that reveals what they have. It looks terrible, some very low stats, trash units, so I'm just going to go after them again. I was a tiny bit hesitant to just immediately go on the offensive with only our starting stuff without recruiting more things. But the enemy looked weak, so I thought I'd just take this opportunity to kill them before they recruited more stuff. They happen to actually be in reinforcement range of the Skaven settlement, which we now know exists as a result of them coming in to reinforce this battle. But even with those extra units, the balance bar still absolutely crushingly in our favour. However, I just wanted to fight this anyway to give us a tiny chance to look at the units and just show them off and introduce them. The first thing I noticed in this fight actually was that the map was extremely interesting, a very dynamic and featureful map, although this is the only one like this I have seen so far. The rest were more of the standard sort of thing. So the enemy are sitting on a little bit of a hill, so we are going to have to attack uphill to get to them, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem just because our troops are so much better, hopefully at least. So let's take a look at them. On the left we have got the giant crocodiles with hammers. They probably have a name, Kroq-Gars or something like that, and helping them out is the king of crocodiles himself, armed with a spear and a magic mechanical hand thing of doom which blows people up. We've also got a Triceratops because, well, we just do, and I'm extremely enthusiastic about that fact. And then, of course, we have the actual lizard infantry. You've got your skinks, who are the inferior kind, and saurus, who are the regular kind. The skinks are skirmishers with javelins, and the saurus have a variety of different sticks. They're mace infantry, as the game describes it. And we're going to be facing all of these rats. They're pretty much your standard trash infantry. They have terrible stats, bad equipment, and they're armed with slings and short swords. So let's get things going. We just have to go up this hill and attack them, leading the attack with our dinosaur pet, and it seems to do decent damage. This is one of the classic things about Total War Warhammer, is the charges look a lot more powerful than they actually are. But let's save the backseat game design consultancy for another time, shall we? For now, let's look at our king of crocodiles blowing people up with the hand of justice. There's probably some lore here that I don't know, but it's a pretty good attack animation nonetheless, and he's just tanking several units at once. Since he is our legendary lord, he's going to have very high personal stats. He can take that. Meanwhile, on the left, our giant crocodiles going to work on these poor rats. This is what I wanted to see. Anyone who follows my channel closely may have known I've had some trouble with Skaven related things in the past, so that was pretty much my main motivation for picking this campaign. I want to see some rats get killed by some lizards, and this first battle is not going to disappoint. These rats are very poor in quality in comparison to the standard lizard troops, so we were just ripping through them with ease. You might notice I don't have blood and gore effects. I think the blood and gore DLC for the first game does actually work in the second game, but I was playing this in the early access edition, so maybe it just didn't work there. It might appear at some point, I'm not sure. Our poor Triceratops was getting confused there and was absolutely destroying our own troops. Luckily, I don't think that does any damage. It just knocks them about. They don't lose any health from doing that. And in come the skinks. They got bored of throwing javelins just to help out with this rout phase that's starting now. The enemy are all just out of luck. They're getting destroyed, and we're going to start chasing them away. The The only problem is that the Skaven are pretty fast, so we can't really chase them. We don't have cavalry or anything of that caliber, so they're going to get away with their little scurrying run. So I just had to end the battle, and the thing I wanted to test here was whether it auto-resolves a route phase for you, like in some of the previous games, where it will presume you could have chased them and killed some of them. Unfortunately, it seems to not be the case, so actually after the battle, it seems that we barely did any damage to them at all after that fight, so it seems like something went wrong even though things were going so right. We really should have just auto-resolved that, and the initial balance bar would have added to that, because that was essentially a waste of time. It was just for my own amusement. So after the battle you can turn your prisoners into money, into experience, or you can replenish your troops. We don't need the replenishment because we lost virtually nothing. So I just took the experience and we'll carry on. So we can now see the Skaven settlement that we need to take. It's not very good. It's a level 1 settlement with nothing in it, so it's not going to have much of a garrison. In fact, we just saw the garrison, so we know it doesn't have much of it. I was having a little bit of trouble here, though, because you can't move while these messages are up. And that's something I was genuinely disappointed by, because I was so happy to see them take away all these messages coming up in the center of the screen and interrupting things. But they actually do still interrupt things, they're just not on the center of the screen, so I wasn't quite as untriggered as I could have been by that. Total War Attila used to really annoy me with how many things would pop up in the middle, but that's a story for a different time. We've got a level up there. We're going to take the route march level up because there is no reason to ever not take it. It is the only viable choice, and we will hit Serpent Coast, this time just auto-resolving whatever was left there, and we'll move on in because this is part of our home region. That completed the mission for us. Going to get a nice dump of money and some of the ancient plaques, which are the secondary currency you need to use the ritual system, the alternate way of winning the campaign, but we'll probably talk about that when it becomes a bit more relevant. For now, we've got a little bit of trouble with some beastmen. As you can see, they've underwayed their way into our territory, and I'm going to need to take them out before we keep going south. It's a tiny bit of a concern because I thought going backwards to kill these guys might give the Skaven an opportunity to come up from the south. We know they have another base there, or at least we probably know because there's a ruined settlement with Skaven standing outside it, so I was just guessing that was going to be another one of their settlements. But even if they do come in our direction, it'd be pretty easy to take our Serpent's Coast settlement back, since there's no garrison there. So we go ahead and just destroy that Beastman army. It was really small and had no chance on the balance bar, so we just annihilated them. Doing that unlocked a right. This is a system where you can buy temporary passive buffs of various kinds. They are very expensive though, so I'm not going to be using those at the moment. We just need to buy buildings and units for the early game. So with that done, we'll start heading back south and get more units together. One of the main advantages, or the main advantage perhaps, of using Kroq-Gar, the king of crocodiles, is that he has minus 50% upkeep on the Saurus units, the generic infantry unit of the Lizardmen, and that's entirely why I picked him, because when I saw that bonus on the startup screen, I was like, well, that's going to be exploitable. So we can have a pretty big and powerful army right at the start, and we might as well use that by just constantly attacking our enemies. And here we find the Skaven are a little bit more entrenched. They've got a walled city, as the advisor says. You actually can't turn him off for some reason. You can only put him onto the low level setting, so he'll be popping up now and again perhaps. But yes, the balance bar is equal, even though all their infantry is mostly still just the trash we faced before. The fact they have walls defending them and towers, I guess, is buffing them up here. So I'm going to wait a few turns and put some siege equipment together in order to make an attack on this city a bit easier. However, there was actually another Skaven settlement down to the south, or at least a Skaven army that came from there, and they came to sally out, or reinforce the sally, and it turned into an ambush. I guess the Skaven can do this similar to the Beastmen, where offensive battles can be turned into ambush fights, so we don't know exactly what we're facing, but we have no choice but to fight, so let's do it. We get this little letterbox cutscene to start the battle, a hangover from the Rome 2 days, I think, where we see our King of Kroq's Kroq-Gar just taking a stroll on this particularly dreary day with all of his lizards, but they're going to be very rudely interrupted by the appearance of all these Skaven from about the place. So in they come, coming from various directions, one group from the south and two from the north. The first thing I did as the battle started was to form up behind where we were situated to try and get it so that all the enemy would be coming at us from the front, but I immediately realised we didn't want to do that because the enemy groups are so far away from each other. We might as well just fight them separately to make life much easier. So they've got these two coming in the top corners of the map that are going to take a while to join the engagement. Some interesting buildings up there as well, but no time to look at that. We have to kill this first group because locally we have a pretty big advantage. You might as well just wipe all these guys out. The fight didn't start ideally. I messed up all the charges with bad micro, but at least we broke through their centre because the enemy split up a bit and we got our units behind them right away, so we can go in for the rear attack soon enough. Kroq-King is going to be tanking the enemy once again, just distracting this unit so that our other units can finish off their companions. But the enemy warlord going to be doing the same thing to us, much less effectively though, because he's not a legendary lord, so he won't really be able to take hold units on his own. So yes, we go in for the rear attacks. A lot of these units are low morale units, so after a while, fighting from both sides, they will rout and start trying to get out of there. Over here on the right, we see some clan rats about to have a very bad day as the Triceratops starts tearing them apart. And actually, this secondary attack did a lot more damage, visually at least, than the first one. But then in come the giant crocodiles to really seal the deal. I'm a big fan of this 1-2 punch. Hit him with the dinosaurs, hit him with the smaller dinosaurs. That does the business. We destroy half the unit pretty much straight away. That's not going to be any trouble for us anymore. Now, a lot of them started to rout. They're routing while surrounded. You'd think that would totally wipe them out, but because of how the specific attack system works in Warhammer and a couple of the earlier games, we don't really do any damage to them while they rout, so they are actually going to come back in a little bit. And the other units in big trouble as well. Kroq-Gar still destroying people's souls now with support from some of the other lizards who come to join us. So yes, they're coming back. Pretty annoying. I'm just ignoring them right now. I'm reforming the army because they're starting to come in, those northern groups, and I just want to face off against them on the edge of this tree line. Annoyingly, some of them are coming back from routing behind where I want to form up, but they're so weak, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. More annoying is the fact I've somehow left behind Kroq-Gar. He's fighting with an enemy warlord. I guess he couldn't escape from this melee and got drawn back into it. Lucky for him, his loyal companion, Timmy the Tryhard Triceratops, is here to save him. So we're going to see if these two can clear up the situation, and the rats do not want to face this dinosaur duo. They're getting out of there. Their warlord, their leader, continues on for a bit, but now he's in trouble facing both of us. I think either one of them could kill this guy one-on-one. I think we did take a lot of hits from the Triceratops onto Kroq-Gar there, but as I said, I don't think it does any damage, so it should be okay. Unfortunately, a lot of the enemy's advanced elements are starting to catch up with us now, so our leader's still very exposed out there. Also, some trouble for the giant crocodiles. They were left behind as we retreated. They're a bit slower, it seems, and they're being caught up by all these rats who keep engaging them in melee and making them stop. It got to the point where I just thought, well, I'll forget forming up on that tree line. Let's just go back out and get the fight going. Some of the crocodiles just rolling about on the floor as their attack animation. I don't know how effective that is, but they are the professional giant crocodiles, not me. I will leave them to it. We had a little bit of trouble here on our right, where these enemy units of night runners, which are like dagger skirmishers, they're attacking some of our spears, and they can do the annoying little thing where they can attack while moving, or attack backwards, so when you chase them you take more and more damage. So we're just going to have to take that, because we don't have any shielded units or anything fast to really deal with skirmishers right now. Some more skirmishers are attacking Kroq-Gar, this time slingers, but it's a lot better because they're just slinging into a crowd that's mostly their own troops, so I'm sure they're doing plenty of friendly fire damage there, which is nice. Eventually these Kroqs get tired of the Skaven chasing them around, and they just start sticking into this melee and just annihilating the enemy. That's all going to be fine. With the Night Runners, we kind of reversed the situation where I stopped chasing them and instead ran back into this forest. The forest gives you some defense against ranged attacks, and either way we were going to be taking ranged attacks the whole time we were moving, so we might as well move to somewhere that's a little bit in our favour. With the main melee in the centre, things starting to look better now. Everything's just charged out to support Kroq-Gar and the Triceratops, so we're wiping out enemy units pretty quickly, but more and more are still coming in. I think those Night Runners ran out of ammo, so we started chasing them, and here one of our units has gone into Primal Mode. This is a mode, it's a little bit like Berserk mode that some units had in previous games, or maybe running on Mock, where you can't control them, they just attack things randomly. But in a battle like this, where there are just units all over the place and attacking things randomly is pretty much all I'm actually doing, I guess that's fine. I also very sneakily use some of my skinks to kite away a couple of enemy units just to make our life easier, because the skinks aren't very good in melee and they quickly run out of ammo. Too much choice here for poor Timmy. Skaven everywhere, he has to choose which ones he's going to kill first. He gets into it eventually, sending them on a nice trip. And our crocodiles are starting to feel the weight of the enemy's numbers. We have actually taken some losses here, there's just so much stuff attacking them, but not enough to actually bring them down. We only lost a couple. A lot of them are just low on health rather than being dead, which is fine, it doesn't affect their combat performance, so we'll still keep hacking them down. There, another unit's gone into Primal Mode, but that's fine because they're just fighting in a melee that we want them to fight in anyway. At this point, the enemy were just falling apart. We had advantage in numbers. We could just go around and start routing everything there. We've chased off a couple of units with our dinosaur friends, and the rest of the Skaven starting to just get out of there. Once again, we can't really chase them very well because they're too fast. Here, we came so close to taking out one of their lords. Got him down to virtually no health from several thousand, but he is going to get away with it. But at least we have gotten away with being ambushed. A close victory, and we've probably destroyed a lot of the people we were besieging as well. I'm being very generous calling them people, aren't I? Rats. We killed a lot of rats. Not all that many, actually. You can see there's plenty still alive. Probably about half of them we took down, and the losses on our side, not too bad. One unit of skinks took a bit of a beating, having to fight in melee. Nothing too serious, and this time we can make use of the post-battle thing with the captives to get some of our strength back, since we actually took some losses. So that'll leave us in a better position after this to carry on our siege, and perhaps just have a really easy assault now that we've killed most of the people in the area. The rats! God damn it. I keep making this mistake. I also used a priest I had, the agent you start the game with, to go and discover the next Skaven settlement along. We knew it was there because that was where that army just came from, but there we go, we've confirmed that it's there. There's some more ruins off to the west, probably more Skaven, we'll check them out. Now, not all ruins are Skaven, and there's actually some ruins up to the north we can go and colonize right now. So I've sent a lord to go and do it. Had to hack through some event messages first. You get a lot of these choices in the Lizardman campaign, I've found. For the most part, the best choice is to do nothing if it gives you the option. A lot of the time when you get these little dilemma choices, you get a passive buff but you lose something, and what you lose, in my estimation, is always not worth it, so we're ignoring that. Now I had a mission to get a non-aggression pact with the Wood Elves. They say something about Athel Lauren, I'm pretty sure it's not, but whatever. And there you go. So as I mentioned earlier, there are lots of missions in this game, and you kind of have to do them because you get so much reward from doing them that you'd really be shooting yourself in the foot if you didn't just go along with what all the missions say, which is good and bad, but we'll leave that there. So I'm going to do that colonization. That's another mission by the looks of things, and we get another mission after that. And we can now issue a commandment, an edict, as it was in the older games, and you have this thing called geomantic web as the Lizardmen, which effectively makes your edicts a bit more powerful if you have lots of settlements next to each other. We don't, because we're in a long line, unfortunately, so it doesn't really have much effect on us, so that's a shame. Now, back to the front lines, we've got this siege. Now, it's an auto-resolve, but I wanted to do this very quickly as a manual battle, just to admire some artistry. I wanted to see what our siege equipment looked like and things like that, and what the Skaven settlement looked like. Wasn't disappointed by this siege tower, exactly what you want. It's got lightning coming off it, it's levitating, it's plated in gold, it's covered in spikes, it's got engravings of lizards on it. Really, it's the ideal siege tower. The Skaven do have these gun towers on their walls, which are firing something or other at us, and it's doing quite a lot of damage. You have health on these siege things, and they can be destroyed, and it's going down very quickly, actually. They both got away with it, but hopefully the lesson will be learned that gold is a very terrible material to make armor plating out of, because it's a very soft metal, but I don't know if the lizards looked into it in that much detail. We don't even need the siege towers because you can just attack with ladders with any unit in Warhammer, so we just run at the wall and climb up it essentially. We can use our heavier units to try and open their gate. There's no real point doing this because the whole enemy army is up on the walls, but we're going to do it anyway. And there's our ram, also floating with lightning coming off it, covered in spikes and gold. Again, pretty good stuff. So we're going to capture the walls quite easily, but it'll take us a long time to kill everything that's up here. We have overwhelming numbers, but it's just hard to attack them on the wall because it's all choke pointy. Plus here I was distracted. The Skaven can summon their trash clan rats as a special ability to just appear, and some of them appeared in the gate, so our guys trying to climb up the wall got kited off the wall to fight in the gate, and then some of them got trapped on the inside of the enemy settlement. But it's all fine in the end. We just hack our way up, and here you go, here's some footage of lizards killing rats. That's what I came into this game to see. I don't know about you, but here it is. It went pretty well. We're still facing just the worst of the worst in terms of the Skaven units. They do have things that are much better than this, but all these factions don't have the buildings and such to recruit them. So we're just owning them up, and we're finishing off their commanding unit here, using that 1-2 punch once again. Absolutely no chance for these Skaven. They do all get back up. That's the main complaint I have about this. It doesn't kill them, these really heavy attacks, and I wish it would. I would be fine with the monstrous units having really high attack and really low defense, making them glass cannons. I think I've complained about that before, but whatever, maybe a mod can sort that out for me. This battle is over. We even almost captured the central point before the fight ended, but we managed to rout everything. That's the end of that. So we're capturing a walled settlement for the first time. The Skaven settlement itself was nothing particularly interesting. It was just some holes in the ground with walls in front of it. So no special architecture or whatever going on there. And we'll move right on in and take that place. We need to take the next place as well. It's part of the same province, so it would be good to do that just for economic purposes, and all I want to do is kill rats. So we're not going to hesitate. I just moved right on to attack the next place. It had quite a lot of stuff in it, quite a lot of rats as it were, but not anymore, because they had no power at all on the balance bar, just absolutely wiped as we walked in. We will take their money, we will take their land. Very good, that's another settlement secured. And Kroq-Gar got this trait. He's killed so many Skaven that he is now the exterminator, which makes him better at killing Skaven. And that was also a mission. There are missions all over the place in this game. Very nice, we've even eliminated the faction and completed some more missions. There's another thing you can do with your lords, which is go and find these little treasure points on the map. And this is the only one I've actually done, and it seems it just gives you another one of these events where you choose a passive buff, a temporary passive buff of some kind. Both of them absolutely useless in this case, but we'll take it anyway. And I didn't really read what that message said. One nice feature of Warhammer 2 is that you can read the messages on the right while the end turn sequence is going along, so it just gives you something to do. Very much a fan of all the UI improvements and quality of life things they've done in this game. It's so much comfier and nicer to play than the previous ones. Much more UX expertise going into this. Anyway, we're moving on. We're going to kill some more rats. I just didn't even stop. I just attacked the next faction over. They had absolutely no chance. We annihilated them and took yet another Skaven settlement. So that was all good. Now that's the end of the line of Skaven settlements on our border, because the next one over is actually High Elves, although there are more Skaven off to the west, so we can go and get them eventually. I chose not to though. I actually walked back to my starting area because I can now recruit the slightly better lizards. They're just lizards with shields. They have like 4 extra melee defense and a defense against ranged attacks, and they're ever so slightly more expensive and things like that, but I'm just going to replace the entire army with the slightly better version. I wouldn't advise doing this. It's probably much more efficient to just keep going and attack more things with the original army. It's not like we were having any trouble whatsoever, but I'm just doing this for my own personal amusement. One potential reason to do it is that I didn't have military access with the High Elves, but I just got it as we saw, so I can now walk through their lands to get over to the bit in the west, but you can sail in the sea as well, so it's not a huge deal. Now, while we were away from the last Skaven settlement we took, the local rats decided to rise up against us. I guess there are some Skaven left over, didn't quite kill them all, and now they've got a battle that's in their favour. So for the first time, it's a potentially challenging fight, and I'm going to leave this as a cliffhanger for the next part of this abridged campaign commentary, in which we'll also start interfacing with the ritual system, which will immediately prove to be a ginormous mistake. I hope you will join me for the continuation of this campaign.
I'm not talking about dogs versus cats. Yeah, I'm talking about lizards versus rats. Oh, talking about lizards versus rats.
Lizards versus rats, ladies and gentlemen.